This morning we took a little trip out to Dripping Springs Lake in Okmulgee County, chasing some mid-springtime bass with our fly rods. There's basically a number of different types of lures we'll use to chase bass. A little larger than you typically see if we're fishing for trout or other cold water fish. But what I've got out here is just a little assortment. We've got a little crease fly that basically sits at the surface but doesn't pop, imitate a shad or a small bait fish. A small popper, another bait imitator or a minnow imitator, just a large streamer fly. This is just a rabbit zonker. It's heavy enough that it'll actually sink, and actually very similar in action to something like a plastic worm would be if we were using conventional tackle. And then a good one always to have in your box is imitation crayfish. If sometimes this is a little clouser, but anything that'll imitate a small crayfish is always a good bet when you're fly fishing. Any time of year, be it spring, summer, or fall, you might start at first daylight with something near the surface in shallow water. But a lot of times those fish are going to move off the deeper water, and you're going to need something like these streamers or zonkers or a crayfish fly that gets you in a little deeper water, because most of these fish are going to pull back from the bank and work on a little deeper structure through most of the day. One of the things you want to take into consideration when you're approaching bass fishing with your fly rod is the size of the lures you're going to be pitching. Keep in mind that little 3-4 weight outfits are really designed to throw very light flies, and as they get bigger and heavier and more wind resistant, it becomes a lot more difficult to toss them any distance at all. So we're not only using larger equipment because we need to keep bass out of heavy cover, we're using larger equipment that will help us throw these larger flies that we're using for largemouth. Oh! That was my best of the morning right there. What we've got right here is a 7-weight rod and a 7-weight line. Generally heavy enough to deal with any type of bass in heavy cover. If you want to throw tiny stuff or smaller lures, a 5-weight can be adequate too, and they're very versatile because you could use them for much lighter work as well. But bass fishing on the whole, you want to work with 7, 8, 9-weight equipment, and you'll have a lot less problems. And then I can introduce you to the kayaks we have with us today. We've got a couple of sit-on-top kayaks. These two kayaks are made specifically to fish out of. They're called a sit-on-top because you don't crawl inside them. You actually sit up on top. There's recessed wells in them with scupper holes, so if a wave were to come and break over the top of your kayak, you'd get wet, but all the water's going to run out. You don't have to worry about the kayak taking on water while you're actually fishing. One of the neat things about fishing kayaks is there's lots of different ways to rig them. This one we have rigged today very minimally. Remember, if you're throwing flies around, just about anything you add to the deck of your kayak is something you can catch a fly line on. Only thing we've actually put on our deck this morning is a fly rod holder for our fly rod. The thing that most people don't realize is that fly fishing can be a real effective way to chase bass. Here in our public waters, these fish see all kinds of different lures from different fishermen, but it's unlikely they're going to see anything like you're going to throw at them with your fly rod before you pitch it to them. Also, if we're fly fishing out of a kayak, we can actually be much quieter and more stealthy than someone approaching in a boat can be. Not to say a bass boat isn't a really effective way, but if you've got fish that are a little bit shy from all the activity on a public lake, when you come in with a kayak and you're very stealthy and you present them with fly lures and fly equipment, it's likely going to be something they've never seen before.